Find the derivative of y equals 1 over the fourth root of the quantity 11 minus 6x minus x squared. Then evaluate y prime of negative 5. So y here is a fraction 1 over the fourth root of an entire expression 11 minus 6x minus x squared. Since the numerator is not a function of x, it's not necessary to use a quotient rule. That denominator, since under a root, we'll want to rewrite that as a fractional exponent. And we have 11 minus 6x minus x squared. All of it is to the first power, but it's the fourth root. First power, fourth root, 1/4 power. Since the numerator is not a function of x, let's move this to the numerator, because we can avoid using the quotient rule by just rewriting this as a negative exponent of negative 1/4 in the numerator. And now we can just use the power rule to find the derivative. Since what's raised to the negative 1/4 power is not just an x, but it's an entire expression, we will also need to make use of the chain rule. The derivative, y prime, which can also be called dy dx, will be found by doing the power rule. Bring the power down, negative 1/4, 11 minus 6x minus x squared, leave the entire inside alone, and then subtract 1 from the power. I will call it 4 over 4. But because the inside of that power is not just an x, but an entire expression, the derivative won't be just a 1, but be something bigger. And we have to multiply by the derivative of the inside. That's the chain rule. Derivative of the inside will be 11 will be a 0, negative 6x will be a negative 6, and a negative x squared will become a negative 2x from the power rule. I can move this negative 6 minus 2x to the front with the negative 1/4. Negative 1/4 times a negative 6 minus 2x, and then multiplied with 11 minus 6x minus x squared to the negative 1 minus 4, which is negative 5 over 4. We have a negative exponent here. I'm going to move it to the denominator to become a positive exponent. So y prime, or dy dx, will equal, in the numerator, I'm going to have a negative 1 and a negative 6 minus 2x. In the denominator, there's already a 4 down there. And I'm moving the 11 minus 6x minus x squared down there so that it becomes a positive exponent of 5/4. Now back in the numerator, I can factor out a negative 1 from the expression of negative 6 minus 2x. And I can also factor a 2 out of there. So I'm going to factor out an entire negative 2, and that will give me a positive 3 and a positive 1x. Now the reason I factored the 2 out is that 2 can cancel partially with the 4 in the denominator. You can only cancel once they are multiplying by factoring it out. The negative 1 and the negative 2 become a positive 2, so that will cancel and make a positive 2 there. But then that 2 and that 4 can cancel, leaving a 2 in the denominator. So overall I have 3 plus x divided by 2 times 11 minus 6x minus x squared to the 5/4 power. 5/4 means the fourth root and then the fifth power. But there's our derivative. Our next step is to evaluate y prime of negative 5. In the numerator, that will give us 3 plus a negative 5. In the denominator, that will give us 2 times 11 minus 6 times a negative 5 minus a negative 5 quantity squared, and then all of that to the 5/4 power. In the numerator, 3 added to a negative 5 will become a negative 2. In the denominator, we will have 2 times 11 negative 6 times a negative 5 is plus a 30, and then minus a negative 5 squared, which is a 25, all raised to the 5/4 power. Now the 2 in the numerator and the 2 in the denominator can cancel, leaving a negative 1 in the numerator, so we'll have negative 1 over 11 plus 30 is 41, minus 25 is 16. So we'll have 16 to the 5/4 power. 5/4 means the 4th root, and then raised to the 5th power. And you can go in either order. Let's take the 4th root first, though. It'll keep the numbers much smaller. We don't want to raise 16 to the 5th power and then try to find the 4th root of that. So let's do the 4th root of 16 first. 16 happens to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. The 4th root of 16 is a 2. And we will have 2 to the 5th power. 2 times 2 is 4. Another 2 is 8. Another 2 is 16. And then one more 2 is a 32. And we're going to end up with negative 1 over 32.